Hello my friends and welcome to a new video. Today, after the entire world has already done a review of this, I managed to get my hands on a second-hand MOZA R9. MOZA is a Chinese manufacturer that took the sim racing world by storm. They became very successful due to a combination of both the unavailability of Fanatec's hardware and a very aggressive marketing campaign. And it worked, since in no time various fora were filled full of people that shouted out their undying love for the products this manufacturer churned out at a high tempo. Many people were overly impressed when they traded in their Logitech G29 for a MOZA R5, but to be fair, every base out there is a significant upgrade over the Logitech gear-driven bases. The question remains, how good is this piece of hardware really? Let's start off with the design. It is just a cube made of aluminium alloy with some cooling fins and a plastic panel on the back. There are some logos to the side and on the front, and that is about it. What does strike me is its size. With 12 by 12 by 15 centimeter, it is really small, and I don't know why, but yeah, I expected it just to be bigger. It does weigh quite a lot with its 6.8 kilograms. At the back of the wheelbase is the only button on the entire base which will turn it off and on. For connections there is a connector for a dashboard, an e-stop button, a USB connector to connect it with a PC, and a 6-pin PSU plug. As with almost all the designs of the wheelbases I reviewed so far, I can give the general remark that it misses some color. But as it is, the neutral design fits any sim rig or desk you attach it to. The power comes from an external PSU, which delivers the necessary 180 watt to the wheelbase. What I really liked about the block is the little light they put on it. PSUs are most of the time kept really basic, with just a status LED on it, so adding the logo of the company in a color light is always a positive in my book. The wheelbase can be attached with 4 pre-drilled holes at the bottom of the wheelbase, and it will fit most generic wheelbase holders. So let's talk performance. The R9 is a second in the line of 4 bases so far released by MOZA. With a peak torque performance of 9 Nm, it is situated in the 8 to 10 Nm sweet spot for my usage of a wheelbase. While I would say that the 5 Nm direct drive bases still misses some detail in the force feedback, I feel the output of this base has the best bang for buck when it comes to immersion. I tested the wheelbase in ACC, where the finesse of the force feedback was more than enough to feel both the track and the behavior of the car. The testing in BeamNG was good to experience the more raw side of the R9, and again I was very impressed with both the strength and quality of power it generated. In both games I experienced a fast reaction of the force feedback to the changing road conditions and the behavior of the car. MOZA has a quad-core CPU in this base to make sure the base can keep up with the game. Another, in my opinion, also important point to mention is that even under some load, the wheelbase remains very quiet. This also partly because of the absence of any active cooling. It is hard to imagine that a relatively young company like MOZA is able to create such a fine device when it comes to the motor of this wheelbase. For technical issues, there doesn't seem to be any more than with other wheelbases out there. But it doesn't end there. Something I found also very interesting is the quick release system. It is a very sturdy solution and looks premium. When you push the steering wheel on the steering shaft, it locks into place, and when I say locked, I mean locked. The downside of it is removing it again. While perhaps it is a lack of training, I pulled the rim off and the force I had to put on it drove it into my chin. No video footage is available of it, unfortunately, for the entertainment value of my video. It also doesn't make cracking noises like other QRs do, which is a certain plus. Another highlight for this package is the software they were able to produce. So far, for many sim racing hardware manufacturers, I could say that the software and drivers they provided are, meh. But not for MOZA, which came in all honesty as a surprise. The image I had of Chinese software was thoroughly reshaped by Pithouse. There is a good overview of the hardware, there are presets for types of force feedback, and adaptation of the settings themselves goes very smooth. I had no issues with the installation, and while at a certain moment the UI was in Chinese, this seems to be resolved now. If you look at the ecosystem, MOZA realized that there is a large need for customization. There are pedals, a shifter, a handbrake, and different sets of steering wheels available. The steering wheel I used is the MOZA ES and is the cheapest steering wheel that is out there in their ecosystem. It does remind me a lot of a Logitech steering wheel. The leather feels very nice to the touch, and the stitching of it is also of high quality. The frame itself seems to be of aluminium, and the entirety feels more heavy than it looks. The general design is very pleasing. It is kept sober and simple, with the MOZA logo in the center and some white lines curving over the center with white circles around some of the buttons. The buttons themselves are not mechanical, which is a shame, but they don't feel overly cheap either when pressed. Especially the start button is one of my favorites, since it looks like a button from a modern car, and in BeamNG I simply need it a lot. Despite the many buttons available, I am a real fan of this steering wheel. MOZA also offers a 31cm rim to replace the, in my opinion, too small 28cm basic one, for a still reasonable price. They really have their ecosystem worked out, is the least you can say. So far I didn't encounter anything which I didn't like about the R9, but there is still one item I have not discussed yet. The price of this all, €499 for a wheelbase that is compatible on PC only via the MOZA Racing website. However, this price is without the import tax and shipment, and those can get really expensive, especially for us in Europe. There was an extra €45 of import tax that needed to be paid on it, and over €100 for shipment, which brought the total price north of €600, and that's simply too much looking at the competition and what they offer in Europe. Nonetheless, it is not that long ago that direct drive under €1,000 was a myth, so perhaps we have been spoiled lately, and with keeping that in mind, the price is surely not that bad either, especially if you see what quality you get in return. As a conclusion, I have to say that yes, MOZA wheelbases have been and are being overhyped, but the company did quite a lot to live up to the hype when it comes to their product. I would recommend this wheelbase any day of the week, and it can compete easily with all the best that Europe and the US has to offer. It is largely due to them that the pressure has been put on the mainstream manufacturers to make better and cheaper material, and that is something I am very grateful for. I will do a more in-depth comparison with the CSL DD8 Nm of Fanatec shortly, so subscribe if you don't want to miss it, and if you have a request of things to discuss in that video, don't hesitate to leave a comment. Thank you all for watching, and see you next video.
Jesus.